Okay, so we are out here for the third attempt at the brief on the water impressions of the Revo Stx. Now the first two attempts, I blew the spool up really early and I couldn't pick out the backlash. So I've changed the line out to the yellow line that I used with the CURADO. And what I'm going to do as well is I am going to take my hand and wipe this brake surface area clean. I think it may be too slick. Yeah, it feels pretty oily. So hopefully that'll help with the uncontrollable spool. So once again, I'm going to start off with all 6 brakes on inside. And just back the external dial off slowly. Here we go. Okay, so unfortunately the lake, they've drained it for the winter, but I should still be able to use this square bill without getting hung up. It's the exact same one that I used in the CURADO video, so it's about 1/4 ounce. I've been really wanting to get out on the water to see how this new brake system works with its adjustability. And I finally have time because of the Thanksgiving weekend. Okay, so spool tension. I'm gonna start off with just removing the side-to-side play. External brakes are on maximum. Brakes seem pretty quiet. If I remember from my old Premiere, that was kind of loud. Okay, so everything's set to maximum. The spool is really controlled as should be expected. And I believe wiping off that metal plate helped out. Okay, so I moved spots. And what I'm gonna do is I'm going to see if I can get more distance. Let me show you how far this is casting now with all the brakes on. So remember that spot there? I'm gonna start backing off the internal brakes. So I'm going to back off 1 brake. That means I'm going to click it in place just like that. Let's see if that makes any kind of difference. I don't really see, maybe it went a little bit farther. All right, let's try one more cast. Okay, I think that one went, I don't know, maybe 5 to 10 foot farther. So that's with 5 brakes on. The retrieve is pretty smooth. I'll have to admit that, even though this is, just a small square bill. All right, so it's hard to tell. Okay, so I'm gonna back off, deactivate 1 more brake. So I have 4 brakes activated internally now. And the outside dial is still on maximum. Okay, the spool was still really controlled. No kind of overrun or fluffing. Okay, I don't see much of a difference between 2 brakes off versus 1 brake off. So we're gonna keep backing them down until the spool gets out of control. Okay, so I clicked 1 brake back into place, so there's 3 brakes on inside, leaving the outside dial on maximum still. Okay, I think that made a pretty big difference. Probably went out another 5 foot. And these knobs, they're comfortable, but they don't shield you from the vibration as much as the CURADO knobs. All right, so right there, I think we're probably already getting more distance than the CURADO. Now granted, I didn't mess around with the CURADO internal brakes as much, but this is with 3 brakes on. Let's try one more. All right. Okay, the spool right there started to get unruly. So 3 brakes on might be the lowest I can go inside. So against my better judgment, I'm going to deactivate 1 more brake. So that means there's only going to be 2 on inside. And I'm really going to watch the spool so it doesn't blow up, hopefully. Yeah, I could tell that spool was about to blow up. So I had my thumb there. Okay. Yeah, that spool is getting ready to blow up. So that tells me right there that 3 on is the lowest I can go internally. And then if I want to get a little bit more distance, I'll adjust the external dial. So I'm going to put it back on to 3. Okay, so back on to 3 inside. Okay, so the spool is still controlled. So it leads me to believe I can get more distance by turning down the external dial. Okay, so it's on maximum now, so I'm going to back off 2 clicks. Okay, I'm going to back it down another 2 clicks. So I was keeping my eye on the spool and I didn't see the square bill hit the water. Okay, time to back it down another 2 clicks. Okay, so I blew the spool up. That tells me I went down too far. I probably should have went down 1 click or left it where it was. So I'm going to go back up 1 click. Okay, that went a long way. I had to thumb the spool pretty much all the way throughout the cast to keep it from blowing up. So I'm gonna back off one more click. Wow, that had to have went at least 35 yards. So that tells me that this is the right setting for maximum distance. Okay, so the spool fluffed up there in the middle. I had to thumb it just a little. So you can actually just back down one more brake. Actually, I back down one more click on the external dial and solve that. But we're gonna find out. So back down one more click. See if it solves that that overrun. Looks like it did, and it didn't really rob us of that much distance. So I can tell you right now, just by cranking in this little crankbait, the Revo Stx does not have the power of the CURADO K. Because when I was cranking in this little square bill with the CURADO K, it didn't even feel like the thing had a bill at all. Okay, so what I'm going to do now, just for reference, I'm going to throw the exact same square bill on the Revo X. See if I can feel any kind of difference in performance between the two. Okay, so as we know, the Revo X is half the cost of the Revo Stx. This is $99, the STX is $199. So let's see if we see any kind of difference between a reel that costs half as much. So I'm going to set it up the same way. Gonna remove the side-to-side play in the spool. I'm going to start the brakes on maximum. The maximum for the Revo X is down here. Now it's not the same rod, but they're basically the same specifications. So that's with all the brakes on. It looks to be about the same distance. Keep in mind the Revo X spool is a couple of grams heavier. Spool super controlled, as expected. I'm going to back the brakes down 2 clicks. Okay, so that 2 clicks probably gained me about 10 feet. So we're going to go down another 2. Okay, that gained me a couple of more feet. Okay, we're going down another 2 clicks. So this is getting towards the brake setting of the 1/4 ounce square bill casting distance battle. As you can see, the spool started to get unruly there. So I'm going to turn the brakes up 1 click, see if that solves that overrun. Okay, yeah, it solved the overrun. and I keep catching salad. Okay, let's back it down one more to see if that overrun is still there. Okay, so it fluffed up a little. I want to go down one more break, but I'm kind of scared that it's going to blow the spool up, but I will do it anyways. Let's go down one more. Okay. I didn't put full effort into that cast because I know how magnetic brakes are. So maybe that's the key with these brakes. The lower you go down, don't put a full cast into it. Okay, let's go down one more. All right, so I think we've reached the limit there. Okay, let's go back one more break. Okay, we're going back one more break. Okay, I think we found the limit for the Revo X. And I don't know about you guys, but I can tell that the Revo Stx probably casted at least 15 feet farther with this little square bill because of the brake system is better and the spool is lighter. That's one of the things you get for your extra $100. Now, as far as the retrieve, I'm gonna have to say the Revo X feels smoother, and it might be due to the knob material. It's a rubber instead of EVA, and the EVA knobs on the Revo Stx are kind of rough. Okay, one more cast and we're gonna switch up the lures here. Yeah, that Revo Stx is definitely gonna outbomb this Revo X, as well it should. Okay, we're switching lures up to the Lucky Craft Gunfish Topwater. I think this weighs about 3/8 of an ounce. Switching back to the Revo Stx. What I'm going to do is I'm going to start off with 2 brakes on inside instead of 3. Because this lure casts extremely well. I'm going to turn the outside brakes to maximum. Still the same spool tension. Let's see what's up. Okay, so with 2 brakes on, the spool got a little bit of an overrun. So I'm going to try one more cast with 2 brakes on and then go down to 3 brakes on. Yeah, definitely 2 brakes on is really sketchy. Now the one thing with the Revo brakes is you can't really tell which ones are activated unless you pull on them. Unlike the Shimanos, you can tell immediately which ones are on. Alright, let's see what happens. Let's see what this thing can do. So the spool is extremely controlled. Distance is pretty good, but I know I can get more. So I'm going to back down the brakes 2 clicks. Okay, we're gonna have to back these brakes down. Going down 2 clicks. Spool is still really controlled. Distance going up a little bit. Not sure if that's going as far as the CURADO was, since the water levels are different. But we're going down 2 more clicks. Okay, at the beginning there, I could tell that the spool wanted to overrun a little bit. So we're going to go down 1 click. I say that's going about 35, maybe 40 yards. Ooh, that went a long way. Okay. Going down 2 more clicks. All right, blew the spool up there. So that means I probably need to go up 1 click on the external dial. Whoa, it almost went to the other side of the lake. Spool was more controlled, obviously. So in this setting, you probably want to keep your thumb on the spool and feather it just a little. Not sure if he got any more distance than if I went up 1 more click, but we'll check. I don't know if you guys can see where that landed. So I'm thinking it's probably at least equaling the Shimano CURADO K. They're in the same lure. Okay, we got a good backwind. Let's see what this thing will do. Okay, we're gonna go one more click up. Okay, so you can see that was probably the optimum brake setting. So now we're gonna try that Revo Stx. I'm sorry, that Revo X. Okay, here we go with the Revo X. Same Lucky Craft gunfish. And I'm taking no chances here, and I'm turning these brakes all the way up. Okay, that was pretty disappointing considering this is a gunfish. Gonna back these down 2 clicks. Okay, probably got about another 10-15 foot. Going another 2 clicks. Okay, spool is starting to get a little unruly there. Okay, we're going to try one more cast on this setting, and then we're going to turn the brakes back up. So that had the benefit of a backwind helping out the lure. Okay, there's no wind now. All right, I think I can back off the brakes one more click. So I'm thinking this is getting pretty close to the STX, maybe shy about 5 feet. Let's back off one click. All right, that was probably equaling the STX. So we're gonna go down one more click. Shouldn't have did that. And I had a good backwind as well. So I think we've reached the limits of the brake setting for this lure. All right, one more time on this setting. Okay, that's odd. Brakes are kind of inconsistent because the spool was really controlled that time and I didn't even touch it. Okay, against my better judgment, we're gonna go even lower. Whoa, that went at least as far as the STX could manage. Granted, there is a little bit of a backwind, but still, this reel is half the price. Okay, let's keep going down. Damn, that thing looked like it almost went across the lake. So these brakes are kind of an enigma to me. Okay, we're almost halfway. So we are pretty much at the halfway setting. Now there was a slight crosswind that might have affected that. Okay, let's try one more time. All right. Okay, let's back down one click. The wind died down. Okay, so on that blow up, I think we're gonna end the on the water impressions and get back home and do a tabletop observations. Okay, so I finally was able to get out and successfully complete the brief on the water impressions of the all new Revo Stx. It's something I've been wanting to do for a while because I really wanted to try out the newish braking system with the lockable arms. And just for reference, as you saw, I brought out its younger brother, the Revo X, to see if we can see any kind of differences, and there were. So before we go over my thoughts, I'm going to get some weights and measurements. Okay, so we got the scale out, and the first lure I threw was the exact same 1/4 ounce square bill that I threw in the CURADO on the water video, and that is 8.1 grams, so roughly a little bit over a 1/4 ounce. And the second lure is the Lucky Craft Gunfish, and that weighs roughly 12 grams, so right around 3/8 of an ounce. It's the same lure I threw with the CRONARCH K, just a different color. Okay, so if you saw, the first thing I did the second time around was I cleaned off the brake plate right here, because I was getting, even at max brake setting, on the first couple of attempts to do the video, I would get horrible backlashes that I couldn't pick out. So I just physically took my finger and cleaned any kind of extra oil off of there, and that seemed to do the trick. So if you have a Revo Stx that you ordered and you're waiting for it to come in, I would probably do that as soon as you get out on the water and start casting. Clean off that brake plate. So one thing that I did notice was that when I backed down as low as I could go with the 1/4 ounce square bill, the Revo Stx seemed to get the longer casts versus the Revo X when I backed the brakes down as low as I could go. And I think the reason is, first of all, the brakes are more adjustable, and second of all, the spool should be lighter. So we're gonna weigh the spools real quick. So as you can see, they're two different designs, but I believe they are the same diameter at 33 millimeter. But the Revo X has the longer spool shaft, but they both have a bearing. So the Revo X spool, when filled with line, you are looking at 29.7 grams. So the STX spool, when filled with line, you're looking at 26.2 grams. So about 3 grams lighter. So I think that really helped it throw the square bill farther. Now, if you guys think that the Revo X threw the square bill farther, leave it in the comments. Just from my vantage point, when I backed the brakes off as low as they could go on both, the STX looked like it outdistanced the X by a noticeable margin. But if you saw different, leave it in the comments. Okay, so when it came down to the gunfish, the heavier, more aerodynamic gunfish, the cast distances seem to be about equal, but the braking on the STX seemed to be more consistent. As you saw with the Revo X, sometimes the spool would backlash really bad, but then on the next cast, it wouldn't backlash at all. That could have been due to the wind changing directions and whatnot, but I would give them about equal distance on that, but with the edge going to the STX because the braking is more predictable. Now, one thing to note, when I was backing down the brakes, I realized I was using the STX, and I realized that the maximum setting is on the top versus the maximum setting for the Revo X is on the bottom. So when I thought I was backing the brakes down for the STX, I was actually increasing the brakes. So I don't know why Abu Garcia did that. There's a reason why. And of course, one more thing I had noted before, they need numbers. I wish they would put numbers around so you could tell, you know, what brake setting is the best for a specific lure. Okay, a couple of more things to note when comparing the STX to the X is that the X actually seems smoother on the retrieve. Now, I attribute that to the knobs being more comfortable. The material, this rubber material, while the knobs on the STX, they're not uncomfortable, but EVA to me just is not as comfortable as a rubber material for a knob. And also, I think the X was smoother, a little bit smoother, because the spool shaft design, where the spool shaft passes through the pinion gear and gives it support. So when the spool goes all the way through the pinion and there's any kind of pressure on that spool shaft can give it support. So I believe that's another reason why the X felt smoother on the retrieve. Okay, so just for reference, I pulled out the Shimano CURADO K, the only other reel I've done the underwater impression video for. And let me give you my thoughts about these compared to each other. Now, the first thing is the CURADO definitely feels more powerful on the retrieve and smoother. Of course, it's got the micro gears, the X ship, and these knobs are just so comfortable. When reeling in that square bill, it felt like nothing at all. Well, you can feel the resistance on the Revo. Now, as far as casting distance, I was really impressed with the Revo STX. It seemed to at least match the CURADO with both of those lures. Now, granted, the conditions were different. It was more windy with the STX, and that may have helped, but from what I can remember, it at least matched the CURADO K. Okay, so as far as the brake comparison goes, I was really pleased with the performance of the Revo. But one thing that Abu Garcia can do to improve it is it's very easy to lock the brakes into place, but unlocking them is kind of a hassle. You kind of got to pull it off to the side a little bit and then up, and you feel like you're going to break these arms off, to be honest. So you kind of got to be careful on how you lock and unlock. And once you've done that and you kind of open up the brakes to do another adjustment, you really can't tell which one is locked and unlocked unless it's flown up. So that's one improvement that Abu Garcia can make in the future if they want to. While on the Shimano, it's pretty straightforward. That's on. Actually, that's off. And that's on. So engaging and disengaging the arms on the Shimano system is way easier. So yeah, I was very impressed with the Abu Garcia Revo X. Now, I don't consider these direct competitors as far as price goes, but as far as utility, these are meant to be general purpose, all around bass reels. So in that particular regard, they are direct competitors in my eyes because they occupy around the same price point. So yeah, Revo Stx gets a big thumbs up. I really enjoyed it. The brakes are quieter than what I remember before. And I don't think you'll be disappointed if you get this reel. So I hope you enjoyed this little mini on the water impressions of the Revo Stx, guys. Thanks a lot. Okay, so one thing that I forgot to mention, and it actually is very important, is when I was out there casting and retrieving the lures with both Revos, I noticed that the thumb bar felt worse and worse the more I casted. It's got a really mushy feel to it. As you can see there, what I mean by mushy is that the clutch or thumb bar will move quite a bit before it actually engages. And it felt pretty fragile. And this is important because, you know, you can make 1,000 casts and you'll be pressing this thumb bar 1,000 times. And it is the same with the Revo X. It kind of feels worse the longer. This actually feels, the play there is worse than the STX, but they both suffer that mushy thumb bar feel. I know that they designed the Dura clutch to be improved, and it is in the respect that it's a lot easier to engage compared to the previous model, but that mushy thumb bar feel is really disappointing. So let's compare to a old Shimano CHRONARCH CI4. So there's no mushiness. It just engages with a nice clack. There's no play in this thumb bar. So hopefully they'll improve that design on future Revos, if not within this current generation. Because other than that, the reel was a really great performer, especially for its price range, and I am very looking forward to seeing how it does in the standardized testing.